In this video, I want to quickly go over the data to see whether or not people become happier and more confident after plastic surgery. And of course, I'm not talking about people with a good nose that want a great nose, for example. I'm talking about people with objective failures that objectively they have a bad feature and they want to fix it to have a normal looking feature. It's not about having extremely good features. It's about harmonizing the face for the most part, or at least that should be the mentality anyway, in my opinion. But yeah, here are some examples of before and afters. And yeah, let's go over the data. So in this study, this one was actually in 2016. They essentially just analyzed that website and the reviews. Back then, there were over 2,000 reviews. And back then, the satisfaction rate was 83%. This was in 2016. However, right now we have almost 8,000 reviews and around 7,000 of them said it's worth it, which is around 90% satisfaction rate. So that is a pretty huge satisfaction rate. And this is not a small sample. This is a huge sample of people. Almost 8,000 people that got rhinoplasty. So yeah, 90% satisfaction rate, which is a pretty high number. In this study, they conducted a questionnaire to over 1,000 people. Only around half of them responded. And the conclusion was roughly similar. Around 90% of people were satisfied with the rhinoplasty. In this study, they analyzed the long-term satisfaction after a revision rhinoplasty. It had a very small sample of only 46 patients who responded to the questionnaire, and 88% said they found improvements in the nasal performance after the revision rhinoplasty, and 79% said they would do it again. So again, a really high satisfaction rate. In this study, this one lasted 5 years. They questioned their own patients before rhinoplasty and after 6 months, and they found that the people that got rhinoplasty, they found their noses more attractive, they found their face more attractive. Psychologically, they were better off, and also socially as well. So social confidence increased as well as mental well-being. In this study, they analyzed the satisfaction rate of orthodontic revision surgery, which is revision jaw surgery, and there was an evident functional improvement achieved in 92.9% of patients, and 91.4% of patients were satisfied with the aesthetic outcome. So 91% satisfaction rate. In this study, this was also jaw surgery. They sent a questionnaire, around 70% participated, and in this study, on average, the satisfaction rate was around 83%. In this study, this was a systematic review, and in this one, they analyzed the patient satisfaction, quality of life, and oral health before and after jaw surgery. So they analyzed 30 different studies. In one study, 95% satisfaction rate. In another, 88% satisfaction rate. In another study, 69%. In another study, 92%. And out of the studies they picked, it does seem that the overall satisfaction rate is pretty high, which is also correlated with improvements in quality of life, both physically and psychologically. So yeah, overall, the satisfaction rate for plastic surgery, at least for the two ones that I talked about in this video, which is rhinoplasty and jaw surgery, it does seem to be on average pretty high. It's usually between 80 to 90% of people are satisfied after the surgery. And out of the 10 to 20% that are not satisfied, I assume that it's either because of unrealistic expectations, or they were simply not a good candidate for it, or it was too expensive. Maybe someone already had a good jaw and they wanted it to be a little bit better, and then they regretted it later because it was way too expensive for what they got. So I think it depends. Not everyone should get it. And something that I do observe is the satisfaction rate is pretty well correlated with the price. So the cheaper it is, usually the higher the satisfaction rate. For example, Botox, it's cheaper than rhinoplasty and way cheaper than jaw surgery, and it has a significantly higher satisfaction rate, 96%. And then you have rhinoplasty, which is 90%, which is pretty high. And then you have jaw surgery, which is 80%, and it's way more expensive. But yeah, on average, 80 to 90% satisfaction rate is pretty high. Obviously, not everyone should get it, only if you have like a very obvious objective failure. I do fall into that category, which is why in the future, there is a very high chance that I will get rhinoplasty personally. And hopefully jaw surgery as well. It depends on how I will be financially. But rhinoplasty is something that there's a very, very high chance that I will do it in the future. The price doesn't seem exaggerated for what it is, and the satisfaction rate is pretty high. I mean, even with jaw surgery, 80% satisfaction rate is pretty high. But yeah, on average, it does tend to be between 80 to 90% satisfaction rate, but you do need the money to do it. And hopefully a very good surgeon, because it's osteotomy. You are manipulating your bone, so why not try to get the best surgeon that you can with the money that you have? So it's not really something that I would try to save money on because of how significant it is for your appearance. And hopefully you want a surgeon that does a good job and you don't need to do it a second time. But yeah, pretty high satisfaction rate. People do seem happier afterwards and more confident. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thought you would find it interesting, and thanks for watching.